What is an impromptu speech? In your own words. When I say an impromptu speech, how is that different from any other kind of speech? What does the word impromptu mean, is what I'm asking you.
You don't have enough time to prepare.
You got it. It means you do it on the spur of the moment, just like that. And here's the truth, you guys do this all the time already. This is not one of those skills that you do not possess. You make impromptu speeches all the time with your friends, with classmates, with people you're around, coworkers, bosses, doesn't matter. They ask you a question and you start answering. And you have like a nice reasons, opinion on something, okay? But you didn't really know you were gonna get a chance to say what you wanted to say, right? It's not like you had a chance to plan it out and things like that. So here's the impromptu speech topic for you, okay? The big area that I want you to talk about is education. Education. Now, remember how we talked about narrowing down your topic. If your big topic is education, okay, then what are you going to say about education? Your central idea. What is your central idea? Okay, your topic is education. Your central idea, what is it going to be? That's up to you. Now your speech is to inform. You're going to inform me something. You're going to tell me something about education. Something that you believe, something that you feel, or something that you know about education. Okay? But what you're going to say is up to you. How you're going to take that topic and in which way you're going to develop it is up to you. Now remember, apart from having your main topic and your central idea, you're going to have your intro, right? So you're going to introduce this topic somehow. And that's, in your intro is where you're going to give me your central idea. Or sometimes we also talk about forecasting. In the introduction, you tell me what you're going to speak about and what is the main sort of central idea of what you're going to express. So you give me a little forecast. Then you have the body. In the body is where you actually make your points, your argument, or your information. You lay out the things that you want me to know about education that you wish to share with me. Okay? And then your conclusion, or as we can sometimes call it, close. And that is where you reiterate what you said in the introduction, which is your central idea. Okay? So you basically say, I'm going to tell you this. This is what I'm telling you. Here, I told you that. That's a basic structure of an informative speech, okay? So, I'm not gonna, so I say, ask you to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. So I'm giving you an assignment to do an impromptu speech. You can ask me to do an impromptu speech for you on whatever topic that you choose. Like I'm giving you a topic of education. If you want me to talk about education, I can talk about education. Or you can give me another topic that you want me to talk about. And I will formulate my central idea, and I will actually do an impromptu speech. And by an impromptu speech, I really mean an under 5-minute speech. It's going to be a very short speech, a very simple speech. I'm not asking you to do anything elaborate, because why? It's impromptu. You didn't prepare. You didn't know this was coming. But I'm asking you to use the structure. I want you to practice of creating a speech based on this particular structure, okay? So what topic would you like me to explore in my impromptu speech? You guys want to give me an assignment? I mean, how many times in class do you actually get a chance to give a professor an assignment, okay? Come on, I'm giving you an opportunity to give me an assignment, and you guys are not jumping at it. What would you like me to make a speech about? Give me a big area. Immigration. Okay, good, immigration. Now my speech is to inform, so I'm not going to persuade you. I'm not going to argue for or against or anything like that. So my job is to basically give you some sort of an informational speech about immigration. Good. So what I'm going to say is this. my central idea about immigration is going to be that a healthy amount of immigration is good for an economy of a growing country. Okay, so that's my central idea. You heard it? A healthy amount of immigration is good for a growing economy of a country. That's my central idea. Notice, one statement, one sentence. I'm not saying anything more, I'm not saying anything less. Now I'm going to take that central idea and I'm going to develop it now. I'm going to think, what can I say in my body to support that point? Because I just agreed that that is what I'm going to say, that a healthy amount of immigration, a right amount of immigrants actually supports the economy. Well, I could use statistics. If I had time to look up statistics, I probably could look it up and see how immigrants contribute to this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use history. Because I don't have time to look up statistics, this is an impromptu speech. I'm going to have to take a historical approach. And I'm going to build my case, build my statement, build my thesis, my central idea on history, okay? On what do I know from the past of this country, for example, and immigration, right? So here's my speech. Welcome, friends. Today I want to talk to you about immigration. And I want to tell you that a healthy amount of immigration in a country actually allows it to flourish and to prosper and to grow, economically and in every other way as well. So how do we know that immigration does not hurt a country? Because you might hear a lot of people speak about immigration, and it's such a divisive issue. People say, oh, too many immigrants, they come in, they take away jobs, they do this, they hurt the economy, they hurt the country. You heard this argument before, right? What I'm going to tell you, that's not exactly true. Maybe it's true in some particular unique cases, but overall it's not. Why? Because America, for example, is a country of immigrants. It is a country that was built on immigrants. In fact, many people who came to this country, well, the beginning of the history, all people who came to this country were immigrants. They were running for better lives from oppressive countries, from Europe. Some were running because of the economic opportunities that they were pursuing, because all of Europe is already owned and paid for and bought by somebody else, so they needed places to farm that are not owned by somebody else. And there's no place like that in Europe, so they were looking for a better opportunity there. Some people were running because of the religious persecution. Some of people who came to this country were Christians who were persecuted by a different variety of a church. They wanted to worship God a certain way, but the overwhelming, most powerful version of the church that was part of their country would not allow them to worship God that way. And they actually were persecuted. So they said, where can we go where we can do what we want to do and worship the way we want to worship and build our lives in accordance to how we feel we should live? So their values were pushing them to a new frontier. So they came to this country, right? And if you look at the history of immigration, that as the colonies formed, as the United States of America became a country, all of a sudden, people from all over the world started moving to America. Many, again, for economic reasons, others for political reasons, but this country became prosperous because of the immigration. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect. There were many conflicts among immigrants. You can study the history of cities in the United States that were absolutely overpopulated by immigrant populations. And new immigrants coming off the boat, and that is how most people got to America back then, no planes, boats. New immigrants coming off the boat actually suffered a lot. They lived in cramped spaces. They made practically no money. But their descendants today are some of the wealthiest people around. Their descendants today made it. They made it, they succeeded, and they continue to build this country. Their descendants are serving in the Senate and in government and have companies that they run. These people are all immigrants. So to say that immigration hurts the country is not exactly accurate, because that would be the very existence of this country will disprove it. So what I'm trying to say is that a healthy dose of immigration actually helps the economy of the country. There were times when America took in too many immigrants, and that ended up overcrowding the cities. It created very unsafe conditions in many of the cities. There were health epidemics, there were gang violence, because people were uneducated, they were stuck in a small area of the country. They had nowhere to go and no money to make. So what did they do? They try to steal, they try to kill, they try to somehow procure for themselves a way of living. And it wasn't always perfect, and it wasn't always, peaceful ways. Criminal activity happened. And it still happens today. Yes, some people would say immigrants create gangs. Yes, some of the most violent gangs in America are not Americans. That's sad, but it's a fact. So can't argue against that. But the fact is, a healthy dose of immigration always produce financial opportunities, economic opportunities. Immigrants contribute to this country greatly. So there are examples of great immigrants that came to this country that made perhaps a name for themselves. How many of you have not heard of the name Arnold Schwarzenegger? Arnold Schwarzenegger, famous movie actor, governor of the state of California. He's an immigrant from Austria. There's a few other immigrant names I can start throwing around, but the point is, I'm trying to say, is that immigrants are a part of a society, and they generally make it a better world. People like Albert Einstein, who immigrated from Germany, has contributed to the scientific community in this country in a massive way. And I can just keep going through the history and keep showing to you immigrants and people who came to this country running for something, looking for something better, and yet in the end, this country is better off today because of these people who came. And if they didn't come, well, maybe Germany would have had the first atomic bomb instead of the United States. Who knows how the history would have turned around? Again, all I'm trying to say is that a healthy dose of immigration actually is good for the economy and the well-being of this country. That's it, my speech, done. I did it completely impromptu on the topic that you gave me. Don't tell me it can't be done. Because all I did is came up with a central idea, give you an intro, develop that idea in a variety of different ways, thinking completely off the top of my head. Ideas were popping into my head as I was speaking, okay? I didn't plan this. I didn't know that you were going to give me a topic. I thought they may give me fly fishing or sports or something. I have no idea what you're going to say, immigration. And then I closed. How did I close? Very simple. I summarized my central idea. Boom, done. Can you do that? Can you try to do that?
Yes.
Okay, here's the trick, and it's very simple. I'm going to even turn off the camera so you don't feel bad, because people feel about cameras weird. You don't have to nail it. You don't have to do it perfectly. If you have to cheat and look at the board and forget where you are, that's okay too. I really don't care. What I want you to do is I want you to try, and I want you to try to use the system. Okay? I told you this in the beginning of the class. I tend to be very liberal with how I grade people's speeches. What I want to see is I want people to try. I want to see that their second speech is better than their first one, and then their third one is better than their first one, and on and on. I want to see progress. I want to see movement. Not one of us begins being perfect. Some of us are better, some of us are worse. That's okay. But what I want you to come out is better than the one you came in. That would be success for me. That's how I define success in this class. Okay, so your impromptu speech and your area is education. I want you to come up with a central idea. Education is bad for you, expensive, it does this, it does that. What do you want to say about education? And that becomes your central idea. Then you develop that idea, try to defend that idea, argue that idea, articulate that point in a variety of different ways, and then you close it by saying, see, I told you so. And that's it. That's your entire speech.